It's the Out of the Norm Show, where the stories are all about you, with author, musician, radio and television personality, and all-around nice guy, your host, Norm Allen.
I feel like I just stepped into an improvisation of a Hard Day's Night scene or something.
You
Dogs are flying everywhere, and,
All right.
but he's clean.
She's very clean.
Hey, I want to tell you, we are so happy to have on the Out of the Norm Show today some very, very special guests. We're going to talk about music and entertainment and nostalgia and feelings and all kinds of cool stuff. First, the lady of the group, which is an honor to get to speak with her, is Miss Louise Harrison, and I'm so glad that you gave us time to be here today.
Well, I've got to be somewhere.
You've got to be somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Now, her claim to fame is, number one, she's a great lady. She's an industrial lady, she's a creative lady, and she also comes from a pretty good family with a younger brother, don't you?
Yes, yeah. And I also had a father and mother.
You had a father and mother too?
Yeah, before the brother, yeah.
Before the brother?
Yeah.
Wow, the whole family.
Yeah, yeah.
George Harrison's sister, Louise, and we're so glad to have you. And here's a couple of guys who are part of the Liverpool Legends, and you can see why they're here, because they are preserving and bringing to America and the world, keeping a part of our life, my childhood, and our teenage years, and keeping it alive. And I think it's so important.
We're trying.
You're trying? Well, you're doing a great job. Watching the audience with you guys today was really fun. I went around and shot a lot of audience pictures, and it's all the old people, of course, knew all the words to it. But
So
they
do
were all dancing, and
So do the young people.
the young people know the words to the songs too?
Have you not heard about the Beatle video game?
No? Oh, the Rock Hero video game?
Yes.
Yes, I do know about
See,
that.
all the young children know all of the words too.
Why do you think that is?
Well,
Because they're
we
good songs.
Good stuff.
and when
Yeah.
we see the kids at our show, and you know the little ones this big all know the songs.
No, especially in the last couple of years, when Rock Band was one of the things that where we noticed at our shows, and also they were like #1 on iTunes for a while this last year. So in the last couple of years, a big resurgence of, I mean, they're always the most popular group in the world anyway, but now there's a big resurgence of like 8-year-old kids that know every lyric and every song because the game is really good. So even they'll buy the game without knowing the Beatles because it's new technology and stuff. So it's a very popular, and I'm really good at it too. But it's made a huge difference in our shows because kids always like the Beatles because the music's so good, but now the kids are bringing the parents to the shows. They're like, we're in Branson, and the kid will say, what made you come to the show? And it used to be that the parents would drag the kids. Now the kids are dragging the
opposite.
parents.
Because they know the songs.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And
So-
I think the parents enjoy the game too because it's one of the few games that kids can play that's not exploding everybody all the time. So
Right.
it's
And
just a fun thing.
It's a common denominator and it's the only music where an 8-year-old can agree with his older brother and then his parents and then his grandparents. And they're all Beatle fans. There's not really another group that did that. The Stones didn't, Elvis didn't. Nobody really did. The Beatles had some kind of magic that transfers them to.
Well, it's a timelessness.
Right.
It is. I have a 12-year-old granddaughter that loves it.
Right.
And her and Paul share the same birthday.
Well, there you
And
go.
I mean, when
May
she was-
18th?
May 18th? No, June 18th.
June 18th,
June
yes, sorry, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, May 18th
And
was
my
my
Hannah,
mother
when
and
she was
father's.
like 7 years old, she
Yeah.
would say, I have the same birthday as Paul.
No.
And you go, a 7-year-old knows who Paul is?
Right, and
know?
that's what's the magical thing about it. It's like we call it an 8th wonder of the world, or how many wonders of the world are there? I don't know.
I
but
don't
it's
know.
one of those that is unexplainable.
It is a phenomenon.
It's 50 years later or whatever, and look, we're still here doing this every day of our life.
Bringing
and
out
living it,
humongous crowds in the rain.
Right.
Yes.
Getting wet.
was the first time that you realized that your little brother was really famous? That you saw something that went, oh, he really got there?
I never ever went,
Really?
no.
Okay.
It came along so gradually from our point of view in the family, because for years, you know, first of all, he wanted to learn to play the guitar, then he was in a band in Liverpool, and then they went to Hamburg, and they came back, and it was also very, very gradual. It's one of those things that, you know, it takes 10 years to become an overnight success. It's one of those scenarios. So for us, it all happened so gradually, and we were aware of the quality of what they were doing, and also of the sense of fun that they had. You know, my mum would tell me all about when she would be out with the lads and funny different things that they would do, and you know how entertaining they were just as individuals, just as people enjoying each other's company. And so you know, there never was a moment when we were stunned by success. It just happened, and we adjusted to it, because I've told many, many times that my parents immediately started answering the fan mail that was coming in by the thousands every day, and they took the attitude that without the fans, there is no star.
Right.
You know, and so they always said that as the family members who were more available to the public in that situation where the boys were constantly being chased, you know, and having to hide, that we were more able to be with the public and, you know, talk to them and hug them and everything, that it was up to us to be ambassadors for the fans. And as my mum used to express it, it's our job to give back the love.
You were part of the experience too.
Yes.
So it was a vicarious approach
Yes,
to it.
we were all involved in it, yeah.
Oh, how exciting it must have been.
It was, very much so, yes.
But you came to the States fairly early in their career, didn't you?
I was here in 1963. I had just moved here from, I'd been in northern Ontario, northern Quebec, and Peru, different parts of the world with my engineer husband at that time. We moved into southern Illinois in 1963. And at that time, my mum started sending me all of the singles that the Beatles were putting out. And so, you know, being an abject ham myself, I was starting to go around all the radio stations and call on the program directors and say, hey, this is my kid brother's band in England, and they're #1, and, you know, maybe you should be playing them. And so I was also getting the Cashbox, Billboard, and Variety magazines, and basically doing a study on the music business in the United States in order to tell their manager, Brian, over in England, just what was going on over here, because he had no clue. You know, most of the people in England, for one thing, don't believe in aggressive marketing. And of course, it's totally, totally different in this country.
Sure.
And so they really didn't know how to go about it. So I tried to find out as much as I could and relay the information to him. And one of the things that I said in every letter that I sent after the first one was, get them on the Ed Sullivan Show. You know, because I was starting to watch that every Sunday night, and I knew that that was the vehicle in order to get to be noticed in this country.
So you were a self-taught promoter then?
Yeah.
What's funny is some of the great letters, she's got some letters from some of the radio station programmers, and they're saying like, nah, your brother's band, it's okay, but you know, we don't think so. Or you know what I mean? It was like rejection letters. It's my favorite things, because it's like, I'd love to show these letters to these people now, and you know, who was the guy that had the single with "From Me to You" here?
Brian
Del Shannon.
Del Shannon had a version of "From Me to You," and she's got these great letters where she was trying to go to these stations saying, "Hey, my kid brother wrote this song. Why don't you play this version?" And and they're like, "Oh no, we like the Del Shannon version. You know, no thanks. Go home." You know,
But it's also a matter of timing, though, where it
Yes.
fit in the culture at the time, because we were kind of in limbo from 1950 after Elvis went into service, and we had about a 5-year period that kind of, where's American music going to go?
right after Buddy Holly died, it was a big drag for a while. That's what it
Well,
was.
the day
'Cause
the
you
music
had
died
guys
is
like
certainly appropriate.
Yeah.
Indian and all those teen idols were taking the world, and then the Beatles came in like.
Revitalized
You know,
it.
It's funny because all those guys, a lot of them are with us in Branson. You know, some of those guys, the Teen Idol group, and
Sure.
and really some were back in their minds, they must not like the Beatles because the Beatles came
They
and
didn't.
changed the world, you know, and all those people kind of just got left, you know, and then the whole.
was very upset by the public's response to the Beatles, because he wrote really good songs and he did all his own harmonies, but then the Beatles came out and, wow.
It's almost like the closest thing, which isn't even really close, was like in the 80s when Nirvana came out and all the big hair bands
Right.
got dropped from their labels because that wasn't, they just, you know, their career was over at that point because it was like on to the next. Well, the Beatles was like that times 1,000, you know, it was on to the next, you know, and then all the groups that followed them, you know, like the Stones and the Kinks and the Who and everything after, you know.
Where did your interest in the music come from? Where did your music start? What was your music beginnings? Because I know you're a left-handed bass player, but you're not really left-handed, are you?
Right, and I'm right-handed. I'm left-handed playing righty, and our Ringo's lefty playing righty. We're the most screwed up band in the history of bands.
Directionally challenged.
That's why they're so great. Because the Beatles were kind of screwed up too.
What was your question?
What? Where did your music background and influence come from, and how difficult was it to learn to
Well, I
play
grew up in
left-handed?
Detroit.
Yes.
So
Motor City, baby.
I'm the youngest of 5. My sister Mary had this red record player, so we'd listen to a lot of Motown, Beach Boys, just a lot of different stuff, like the guitar bands, like the Searchers, stuff like that. And then she got this album called Meet the Beatles, and it was like, wow, it's cool stuff. And then they were on the Sullivan Show too, and it was like the visual portion of that. And in Motown, they had house writers and house musicians, and then the bands would come in and the vocalists would come in and do all their recording. Whereas with the Beatles, they wrote their stuff, they played their stuff, and they sang their stuff, and then they took it out. And they were everything like in-house. It was a four-headed monster, is what the Stones called it.
Yeah.
For me, when I saw them on TV, it was like, holy cow.
Did that inspire you to learn to play music? Was that part
Yeah, it
of
was
your
one of the-
part of
Me
your
too,
drive?
when I saw him on YouTube, it's the same thing.
Yeah, hey, look at my hand.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can both do that.
I don't know if do you remember the thing, there was a whole bunch of people in New York with shirts on saying "Stamp out the Beatles." They were from
Yeah, I have one of
from
those.
Detroit, and then the Beatles put one out saying "Stamp out Detroit." I don't know if you ever saw that,
I'd like
but
to get one of those.
yeah.
But so you started playing in the Detroit area then, and you were doing
Yeah.
doing classic rock then?
I've
Whatever.
been in, yes, classic rock bands, southern rock bands, wedding bands, you know, doo-wop, all kinds of stuff. But I always tried to incorporate some Beatle music to it. I really drove a lot of people nuts over the years. What's with the Beatle music? And a buddy of mine called me up years ago and said, hey, this Beatle band needs a bass player. The Paul quit, you know. Do you want to do it? And I didn't want to play bars. My kids were little at the time. And he said, no, they do corporate events. So I've been doing it since 1999, the Beatles stuff, exclusively.
And that all came because of you, didn't it?
No, not that. And
Oh, you were in a different band other than Liverpool
Yeah,
Legends at the time?
everybody in the show has been in other Beatles shows from around the country, and we just kind of picked.
we just
the ones
collected
that
the
we
good
wanted.
ones together.
You know, it's a pretty small. I mean, there's a few bands. There's several bands out there that are Beatle tribute acts, but I mean, there's maybe hundreds, but there's about 3 that are good. So the ones that are good, they're all our friends. We kind of know who each other are and stuff. So we wanted, you know, the Ringo with the biggest nose, and we wanted the, you know, we picked people from top acts from around the country.
So when you were putting the Liverpool Legends show together, y'all worked together to put that together?
Yeah, her and I did.
Yeah.
How did that collaboration come about, though?
Because I adopted him as my brother.
Found me laying on the side of the road in a gutter.
No, that's what my ex-husband used to say about me.
We met weirdly enough at right after George passed, and then
Yeah,
I was performing at a Beatle convention, and she was like the guest of honor there, and we just kind of hit it off. And this is 10 years later now, and
Yeah.
we've never really been apart since.
Yeah. And I just felt that somehow wherever my brother's being had gotten to, that he decided, okay, she needs a brother, here's this guy. You know, he's playing me, so he's fine.
So a good emotional attachment as well as a musical attachment.
I wouldn't say that much of an emotional attachment.
Really,
Well,
but
that's
to
close
be honest,
friends.
we
it's good friends, yeah.
we
yeah.
started
yeah.
out from day one as just friends. The business
Yeah.
stuff didn't come till the band
Much
didn't really
later.
come for a few years. We just started out being friends, and oddly enough, really good friends. I mean, she's kind of like my sister and my mother
Yeah.
and my daughter, all
Yeah.
all in one.
We're such good friends, we can even argue with each other and make up immediately afterwards.
How did Branson happen?
It's a fluke. No, literally it was. We
Yeah.
were playing it.
Yeah.
We just put the show together, so we had a wide open calendar, and we just started a few months, and we were playing a casino in St. Louis, and there was a guy there who owned a theater, sort of, and it just, he was. We talked a little bit and didn't think much of it, and next thing you know, we got a phone call that there was an opening in his theater, and we hadn't really heard of Branson before. I mean, we heard about it, didn't know a thing about it. We went there and kind of looked around and thought like, wow, we stick out like sore thumbs in this town.
Yeah.
When we got there, it was 2004 or 5. And, it was Andy Williams, there was Mickey Gilley, there was Jim Stafford, a bunch of country acts and magicians.
And
so
a bunch of false teeth actors.
right. And we got there, and we just thought it was a nice, very nice people there. It was a nice area, and we were so different and we thought, you know what? In a few years, Andy Williams is like 80 already. Mickey Gilley's 80. All these big time acts that are going to be there are going to retire in a few years. And now it's a few years later, and I was right. They're all pretty much, Andy's he's 83 now or something. And so we just thought, in a few years we'll be the top show here. Well, this is 5 years later, and we're in the biggest and best theater. We've got the biggest guy in Branson behind it. It's a big production show. It's not like the concert we just did.
No.
Where, we're doing it's like a very Broadway-esque style.
And it doesn't even
production.
rain inside the theater.
And it's
Soap bubbles,
just,
though.
That town is just, it's turning over to the baby boomers, and we're kind of leading it, to do that. So that's how that came about.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been voted best show there several years, and
We've been voted so many best things that they've run out of best things to call us, and now they're
Right.
inventing new ones.
this year I won best sitar player.
Yeah.
And you know who I ran against? Myself. I'm the only one in the whole town. And I won. They gave me an
Ravi
award.
Shankar hasn't been there yet. The Shankar tribute band hasn't been there yet.
No one even knows what a sitar is in that town, which is so
That would
funny.
be something, wouldn't it?
A Shankar tribute band.
Right.
But it shows, the acceptance that we have from the local people, that although we're, sticking out like sore thumbs in a way, they
Right.
accept us and they love us and they enjoy our company
Right.
when we see them out in the stores and everything. And
And it's a lot different now. 5 years later, there's
Yeah.
a bunch of newer acts coming in.
Yes.
It's all going toward baby boomers, and so it's not. There's other rock and roll shows now. There's a lot of things for kids. It used to be 10 years ago very much senior orientated, but everything changes, and right now it's families and kids. I think the average age there, when they do the median age, is 50 instead of 70 now. So it's coming down to the baby boomer generation.
Now, in the show that you do, in the halftime or the intermission, you always come out on stage and visit with the audience. How important is that for you? Do you enjoy that?
oh, I enjoy it, yeah. I don't know how important it is for the show, but, I like to talk to the audiences, I get a lot of good feedback from them because I suppose that, and I hate to say this, if somebody else should say it, but, since
I'll say it. What do you want me to say?
Okay, about the fact that I am...
About the fact that I am...
about the closest, living flesh and blood DNA part of the Beatle family that's still here on the planet. And people appreciate, being able to make that connection to something that's really, really, really close
I've been
to the
witnessing
original
that
Beatles.
firsthand for years, where, the Beatle fans, it's very much like hardcore fans. Like, did you ever go to a Star Trek convention? Well, you multiply that times about 10,000, and you've got Beatle fans throughout the world. So when we go into towns, like we're going to South America in December, we went a couple years ago, and there's lines of people around the theater after the show. They love the show, but they want to talk to Louise. They want to touch Beatle DNA. People cry, people get like,
Yeah.
it's pretty, to me, it's like, it's Louise, And when I watch it,
What's
I'm
so
like,
special
wow,
about
I just
her?
remember that it's like, to these people, it's like, it's very emotional for them, and they want to talk all about, what George meant to them and whatever, and she's the closest person. Who else you going to tell that to,
And like
So,
those two Russian guys last night.
yeah, it happens every night. There's always people like that are like want to, she sells as many tickets as we do because people want to. You say it's not a big part of the show. It is a big part of the show because people in the audience want to hear things. They want to hear. Louise knows lots of things that over the years, that nobody else could possibly know. So it's like we do question and answer sessions and stuff during the intermission, and it's a huge part of the show.
On your website, you have some pictures where you met Sir Paul.
Yeah.
You guys had a relationship with him. Is that relationship still good?
Well, he sent me a birthday card a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, how nice.
He didn't send me one on my birthday, but whatever.
How exciting was that for you? I mean, you're playing the character and you get to meet him.
Well,
I haven't met him.
Oh, you
he
haven't met
wasn't
him
in
yet?
the show back then,
Oh.
but I will tell you, when I met him,
It was
I
only
had
about...
just met Louise, so
Yeah.
I was freaking out that I was with her. I played George in the show. I'm with George's sister for a week, and it was strange enough. We had just met each other, and then literally a week later, I'm sitting on a couch between her and Paul, and I was still
Whoa.
freaking out that I was with her, and now I'm kind of like, and it was a nice. We sat on a couch for 40 minutes or so, and it was unbelievably great for me. I was like just a geeky fan,
With other tribute bands around the world, does someone like him see this as an honor and as a compliment when he sees people doing tribute shows?
Who knows? I
Well,
don't know.
when you think about the comments that he was making when he was chatting to you about the fact that Marty was in a show and playing George, and he was saying, well, what's it like for you? He said, because every once in a while, when I'm singing, he said, even though I've written most of the songs, he said, every once in a while my mind will go blank and I'll forget the words. And Marty says to him, yeah, once in a while that happens to us. He said, but we just lip read the people in the front row. And so,
Good point.
Paul said, oh, I'll have to remember that, So he obviously was not dismissive of what we were doing. He thought it was
Who really
good.
knows? He's always been very nice to us.
Yeah.
So, if it was me, I don't know if I'd want anybody impersonating me. But we, as much as whatever it is, we just played Beatles songs for 5,000 people. That's helping his career. You know what I mean? He's not that he needs the help, but all in all, if I had 5,000 people singing, and that's just in this town, but if I had 5,000 people singing along to songs that I wrote, there's got to be something good about it.
There's a Beatles song playing somewhere in the world 24
Everywhere.
hours a day.
Everywhere.
And, we try
Yeah.
to do it. We
Yeah.
treat the music like classical music. Like we don't.
It is
we
classical.
play, but we play the records like as close as we can get them. Like we don't ad lib. We don't change parts because I want to play a different kind of solo.
Even the same instruments.
Right.
You're
We
using-
try to get it as close as nobody's perfect, but we try to. Even when they played live, a lot of times they were just jamming. It was their
Yeah.
songs. They had the right to do that. But
Yeah.
for us, we try to just
Keep it to
play
the record.
as close.
Well,
We don't
and
have
you-
that luxury.
And you coming in, though, with Paul being so versatile, playing guitar and bass and piano, you do all of that in your show.
Yeah.
Boy, do you do it justice. When Hey Jude comes on, it's like cigarette lighters, candles.
Yeah, well, we're not insured for that. So
So we use cell phones.
How much preparation was that when you came into the organization?
when I joined these guys,
Yeah.
I knew the material. It was kind of like an apprenticeship for me in that I knew the songs, but the production was like nothing I'd ever been in. It's very cool, and it's a lot more formatted and scripted, but it has to be that way if you're gonna lead people down through the years, you know what I mean?
Right.
And at first it was like, you want me to do what? I gotta say what? But it all falls into place, and you can see people, certain things, sequences in the show. When I play Yesterday, these guys have to change into something else, and then I got to change real quick, and then
Right.
toward the end of the show, he'll come out. What are you playing?
I don't know, but if it don't work
Well,
out, he's
well-
in his underwear.
Yeah, right, yes, which is not good. But, I mean, there's a rotation, it's by design, but it's to keep the continuity going, and it's very cool, actually.
Do you guys ever change the songs?
Oh, yes, yeah.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
What era do you like the best?
All of them.
That's hard to say.
I
I
like
mean,
them all.
all of them,
actually.
yeah.
I'll enjoy
My favorite to listen to is like the middle, like Revolver, Rubber Soul era, like 1966. My personal favorite.
Yeah.
Um,
See, I've never ever thought of them as having eras.
well, the style.
Because
but
to
they
me,
change
it was
music
just
every
them.
It was
Right.
cool.
right.
It was just my brother and the guys, and so I never thought of them as having, particular things. They just did it, and that was it.
Did you have an opportunity to have a lot of personal conversation in the later years of their career with
Yeah.
George?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Was family a real important thing to him to stay connected with that, with all the outside pressure?
Certainly during the earlier years, yeah, yeah.
That's where stability was, wasn't it?
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, because, the rest of the world was, as he described it once, like a hurricane going on, and they were in the eye of the hurricane. They were the only thing that was calm, and everything else was swirling around them at great speed.
mania.
Yeah.
That's, it is, and it's still a mania. I mean, all of us who are, and I have to tell you real quick, because I know this is your interview, but I have to tell you, I grew up on a farm in East Texas, sitting on a tractor working in a hayfield with a little or a little transistor radio with an earpiece.
Yeah.
And I'd lived for Beatle because it was the only escape that I had from the world that I lived in. And that's what's made it important to me, even now at 60 years old. I mean, it's still, when I see you guys, it brings that release back for me, and I know it does for thousands of other people.
Oh, yes, yeah. Yeah, there was a tremendous atmosphere of joy there today, even though people were being rained on, and in other times you would have said their spirits were dampened, but their spirits were not the slightest bit dampened because everybody just had this exuberance. And, okay, we're getting wet a little bit, but so what? We're listening to Beatle music.
That's right, sing it along and dance. All the time.
Yeah, we were just at New Mexico last week, and the week before we were in Harrisburg.
Someone's got to drive the submarine.
Yeah,
Today you would need one, what we saw today.
yeah, yeah.
Wow. Well, you guys are just constantly busy and creative. I mean, it's not just a mundane show that goes over and over the same order. It's something that still is fresh and vibrant, isn't it?
Next week we might even do Rolling Stones songs.
I want to be your man.
I'll
What's a
tell you
Rolling
what,
Stone song?
maybe some Barry Manilow.
Oh,
I don't know about that.
I would love to hear you guys just in the off hours when you're not on stage.
I'd love to play Ramones songs.
Well, this is
but
kind of
no.
like it.
Is it?
Yeah,
This is off hour. This is supposed
Yeah.
to be our day off.
this
isn't
is
it?
our day off, yeah.
This is how we spend our days off in Walnut Ridge.
Thanks for working us in.
Yes.
Well, what we have to do then is the Liverpool Legends are appearing at the Mansion in Branson, Missouri.
That's
You're there.
right.
Just the best thing to do is just check the website.
That's
isn't
right.
it?
Yeah.
We're there
Yeah.
till October 19th this year, so
October
come see
19th.
us. And
it
then
is
next
the
year we'll
best
see.
show. It is the best show in Branson. I thank y'all so much for taking the time. I know that the folks in Northwest Arkansas and around the country will appreciate y'all being just visiting with us here. And you especially, I think you're a wonderful, gracious lady, and I love the sparkle in your eye and the smile on your lips that you make me feel good. Even if I didn't know you, I'd still like you a lot.
Well, I think my parents were responsible for whatever it is I am.
Well, there's there seems to be peace in the Harrison family for generations.
Well, thanks for having us.
Well, it's good having you guys, and I look forward to it. And it's going to be, I'm going to come to Branson soon. I got to get over there again.
Yes.
You know, the music of your life is a soundtrack, and that's what these guys are preserving for we who are turning into the older age baby boomers. The soundtrack of our life is the music that's presented in a fresh and vibrant, even a creative way. It's not just a mimic. It's a constant preservation of that great spirit that came from way back in 1964, 63, and the years since. We hope that you've enjoyed our visit today with Louise Harrison and the guys from Liverpool Legends. But mostly we hope you'll turn on some music today. Turn on the radio, put a CD in, sing along.
Put on Meet the Beatles.
Meet the Beatles.
Start all over
You can't
again.
beat that one. I would have to put Abbey Road on, or well, we can do this all day long. Hey, we're going to take off right now. Thanks for joining us again on the Out of the Norm show. We're going to see you again soon, where the stories are all about you. Thanks. We'll see you
Peace.
soon.
Did I do it right?
Thanks, man.
Like loving the South and me just loving you. You can't go apart from things that are so dear and true. Like loving the South and me just loving you.